There's nothing supernatural or explicitly horrifying about Aku no Hana, translated as flowers of evil, but instead, a better word to describe it in my eyes is disturbing. It's a story about hidden desires and acting on impulse, and it provides an exploration into the easily manipulative nature of a defiled youth. And at the end of the day, it made me feel the way that I believe they wanted to through the incredibly realistic animation and slow-burning narrative. Very, very uneasy. Before I begin talking about Flowers of Evil, if you enjoy manga or anime in general, subscribing would be huge. Over 90% of my viewers aren't subbed yet, and the support would mean a lot. Enjoy the video. It starts off as a story about a harmless middle schooler named Takao with a crush. He's a huge bookworm. He's different from other people. Nanako is his muse, an object of perfection in his eyes. And everything's normal. And that's something that the show means to emphasize throughout its entirety. That everything occurring throughout is real, that it could happen to anyone, and that unnerving immersion is part of the fear of it all. Takao stumbles upon Nanako's gym bag. You know the kind, the one that's carrying her sweaty, gross clothes from volleyball, and accidentally takes it back home as he runs away from school. He's seen by a girl named Nakamura, the creepy class outcast, and the story takes off from here. She forces him into a contract that he must do anything she says as long as she tells no one about him stealing her clothes, which devolves into a dark game of manipulation. As I said earlier, the show goes into depth about hidden impulses and understanding your true desires, and so throughout you're left thinking, was it an accident when he took them? Takao constantly defends himself to Nakamura, claiming himself not to be the pervert that she calls him, but questions are always being raised. Why couldn't he just leave them? Should he even have been opening that bag, glorifying them in the first place if he weren't a pervert? The innocent boy is contrasted by the weird and manipulative girl, but as the story continues and he's defiled further, you're forced to question how innocent he truly is. And as we see these two characters interact more and seclude themselves from the rest of the world, which is seen as normal, we see how frightening the impulse of youth can become. Takao is forced into situations where he must wear her gym clothes under his clothes as he goes on a date with Nanako. And once he and Nakamura defile the classroom that's meant to represent normality, you're kept on edge throughout. What makes it even scarier is the way the art style was adapted completely differently from the manga, which I honestly believe was a good decision. After reading the manga after completing the show, there was a certain aspect I felt was lacking, and it was certainly the realism of the anime. It's almost 3D, and the way characters are animated is directly based off of real lifelike movements. The barrier between you, what real life is, and the anime is removed, and you're perpetually left in a state where it's horrifying to watch, yet you can't take your eyes off of it. Not to mention, the amount of music used is extremely minimal, until you get to the incredibly unnerving ending song of the show that plays in the last scenes of each episode.
Hana ga saita yo, mita koto nai hana ga saite ita yo.
It isn't kept to a credits or closing scene like a normal anime, but similar to a season finale, is overlaid over the final scenes to create a cliffhanger effect in almost every episode. It's hauntingly addicting. And I don't want to give a lot of spoilers because it's certainly an experience that everyone should have on their own, but after what is essentially the climax of the 13-episode anime, there's a 9-minute walking sequence, which might be overkill, but it's just so immersive. Just as Takao has reached his limits and expressed his true desires, or at least what he thinks is true, gone past the point of no return, we have to sit with him as he silently reflects on what he's done, for 9 whole minutes. What if that were me? What would I do here? What would happen to him? The 9 minutes of no music, no talking, just the atmospheric sounds of a town in the early morning that he feels estranged in. It's beautiful, yet has a frightening effect on your mind as it builds suspense towards the ending act of the show. It's a criticism on the expectations of youth and what they should always be doing, how they should act. It makes you question whether you would even go that far, whether it was worth it what he did. And what's so scary is that self-reflection that both Takao and yourself do. I recommend you watch it. I don't think the show's a masterpiece per se, but I think it easily surpasses the goal it aimed to achieve by shaking its audience to its core in an utterly addicting, frightening, and real story. As always, this has been the Anime Culture Corner. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future in-depth show, manga, and character analyses.